I can say, you know, star. And it's going to package up this text and show up in the simulator. Similarly, because both sides are advertising, I can click through to Alan's iPod, which is this guy, and I can type in, you know, sup. Ooh, it auto-corrected. All right, support fool. And then when I hit return on the simulator, we'll get the message passed to the iPod. There it is, support fool. That means nothing. All right, so that's NS Streams. Pretty simple stuff. Again, the service, the actual HTTP server or UDP server, I think, sorry, this was a TCP server, a socket server, is up to you to implement. Bonjour doesn't do that for you. It will only facilitate the discovery and connection to services that already exist. So that is NS Streams. Now, okay, a new technology that that came out with iPhone 3.0, which I think is totally cool, is called GameKit. And all of this network connectivity and Bonjour advertising, a lot of people, you know, just want to use this to connect one device to another, right? You're writing some multiplayer game, you're doing air hockey, and you want to play against somebody else who's on the iPhone, and you don't want to, you know, maybe you don't want to write all this networking code. Well, this abstracts a lot of that stuff away from you. It also provides a UI so that you can pick users, pick peers that it finds on the network. So here's what it does: peer-to-peer connectivity, abstracts away Bonjour in the streams. It allows you to do it via Bluetooth, and it allows you to do it via Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi stuff's a little more complex, but we're going to talk about Bluetooth in depth today. And it also provides in-game voice transfer. So you can do voice, you know, let's say you're doing some multiplayer game, you guys are on the multiplayer shoot 'em up, and you're on the same team, and you're like, hey, shoot that guy, and you know, it's coming up behind you, watch out. This will actually send the voice data back and forth. And it will actually manage the volume too, so if you've got crazy explosion sounds that are going on and your buddy's trying to talk to you, it'll actually pull down the other volumes so that you can hear your friend on the other end. So here are there are only three classes in GameKit. There's the GK Peer Picker controller, which is provides the UI for picking your peers. And it facilitates the creation of a GK session. The GK session is actually what does discovery of peers and connection to peers. And it's also what allows you to send data back and forth between peers. And then the last one, which we're not going to really touch on today, is the GK voice chat service, which allows you to send audio back and forth, right? So primarily off the microphone, but you connect the two together, and then you can speak back and forth with very little code, right? Normally you'd have to do, you know, audio compression. You'd have to like build an audio chain, build an audio session. Sorry, you get the voice data. You'd have to compress it yourself, send that over the wire, decompress it, build another audio queue that takes it in. There's none of that. There's like 2 delegate callbacks and a couple of properties you can set. So, all right. So GK session. This is where you're actually going to do the meat of your data transfer. So you create it by doing init with session ID. Session ID is essentially it's your service name that we talked about in Bonjour. It's a way for your application to you know, advertise itself as unique to other applications. You pass in a display name, and the display name is the local device name. So it could be whatever you want, actually, but it's what specifically identifies your device versus your peers. And a session mode. And there are 3 types of session modes. There's a server, a client, and a peer. So if you're doing a multiplayer game, maybe you don't want to have one side be the server and one side be the client. You just want them to be peers of each other. It's, you know, a little more dynamic that way. You don't have to create that stuff. It creates it for you. But if you have a server that you're always connecting to, you can specify it as the server, et cetera. And servers can't connect to servers. Clients can't connect to clients, right? Stuff like that. GK session is, again, it's actually a little more complex than this. But there are a few properties that we really care about here. One is the display name, which is your name as seen by your peers. There's the peer ID, which is your ID, your unique ID that distinguishes yourself from your peers. So, you know, there could be two people on the same network with the display name Bob, but one of them is going to be, you know, Bob's iPod Touch 123, and the other one's going to be Bob's iPhone 456. And a session ID, again, is the service that your application is advertising. You don't need to do the, you know, protocol and domain stuff that we saw in Bonjour. In this case, it's just a string. So if you're building, you know, my shoot 'em up, your session ID can be called my shoot 'em up. A few delegate methods you can get back from a GK session. So once again, you can set yourself up as the delegate. You can get notified when your peer's state has changed, when he's coming and going. You can get notified of connection requests. So if somebody tries to connect to you, you get a delegate call back for that, and you can accept or deny. And you can get notified, of course, just like all these other delegate methods, when there's an error for connection or for you know, data transfer, stuff like that. If you want to send data and receive data, right? None of this setup of NS streams, none of this server that I wouldn't even show you because it was too complex. All you do is you call these methods. Once you're connected, right? So the GK session manages connection for you. There are, you know, just 3 data methods we're talking about here. One is send data to peers, which lets you send an array of the peers that you're sending to. So if you're connected to 5 people and you only want to send a message to 2 of them, you pass in that array here. With data mode, GK send data mode, there's 2 data modes. One is, there may be 3, but the data modes are reliable and unreliable. So basically, you can send the data reliably, which means that if for some reason there's a network connection failure, it will retry. If you send it unreliably, it's just going to, you know, bulk broadcast or bulk send that data. And if for some reason it gets dropped on the floor, it doesn't really matter. And you can kind of imagine when those 2 are important, right? So if there's state information that you need to maintain between the 2, it better be reliable. If there's like, you know, a stream of data that you're generating pretty rapidly on one end that you don't need everything to get to the other end, you can let it be unreliable. And I'll show you an example with unreliable. The second data method here is send data to all peers, right? So one method broadcasts to everybody. And same, you know, both of these take an NS data. Both of them have the GK send data mode. The only difference is that one is to everybody, one is to just a few. And the last one's a delegate method. So we set ourselves up as the delegate for the GK session. And then we implement receive data from peer. And the peer is just an NS string identifying the peer. In session, you get the session back that you're, you know, a delegate for. And context, you can set a context on the delegate, so if you have some object you want to keep track of. But that's it, actually. That's it. That's sending data. And I'll show you that again in a minute. Now, the GK peer picker controller. So this is what actually puts up a UI and prompts the user to select another phone. So again, you don't even have to implement the Bonjour discovery. You just say GK peer picker, and you can say, I want it to be online, which is Wi-Fi, nearby, which is Bluetooth, or both. And it'll allow the user to pick one or the other. If you do the Bluetooth, if you do nearby, it's really simple. Like there's very little to do. It's all that stuff's abstracted for you. If you do online, then it doesn't do a lot of the things that Bluetooth does. It actually hands off responsibility to you as an application to connect to the server, build a server if you need to, stuff like that. So we're going to look at the nearby one. And just to be clear, the online one can either be, you know, Wi-Fi on a local network where maybe there's no server, and maybe it's not server clients, maybe it's still peer-to-peer, or it can be, you know, a server in the sky and a bunch of clients that connect to it. All right, when you create a connection, so you want to find your peers. You create a GK peer picker controller. You set yourself as the delegate. You tell it what kinds of types you want, right? Online and nearby, and then you show. That's it. All right, a UI, a canned UI is going to pop up for you. It's going to allow the user to pick online or nearby.